Merry Christmas, I guess. So what we're going to do is we're doing a 2-part BnA Christmas special. I don't know. It's not really a special. I'm acting like I'm NBC and I'm doing a Christmas special. No, basically 2-part series today and tomorrow. Today we're going to do the top 7 sports cities in the entire nation of 2020. We also have where I was right, where I was wrong, a couple other fun segments slotted today. And we have a couple of fun ones tomorrow, including the bottom 7 NFL cities and a rant on Jared Goff. So hopefully you guys do enjoy. You can listen to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, all that good stuff. And without further ado, I don't feel like recording this intro again, so let's just get right into it. And welcome to the first segment. Like I always do, I'm just going to start off where I was right, where I was wrong. And basically, this is a series where it pretty much in the title, I copy after Colin Cowherd because I think it's a good thing. I eat crow where I was wrong, and then I brag about things I was right about, even though I may have been right about it for the complete wrong reason. So I'm going to do a little bit of a Giants twist today. I decided, I talk more mainly about Giants, so let me talk about where I was right about the Giants. I said that the Giants would go 6-10. That's about where they were this season. I also said the Giants should get a Justin Herbert. Not this offseason, not in the draft. I didn't say, draft Justin Herbert at 4. But I don't think he would have been successful with this team. I think the Chargers did a lot more to surround Justin Herbert so far than, Daniel Jones. But I said Justin Herbert is the franchise guy after Eli Manning. I said that in 2018, and I was so upset when he didn't come out. I thought he was big. He was smart. He's from Oregon. He has all the characteristics. And it turns out that his coach at Oregon was just very bad. Anybody who joins Oregon, I think their coach left, but anybody who joins Oregon now, it's just like, I don't trust this offensive coordinator whatsoever because he wasn't able to develop Justin Herbert. And then we showed, and you saw in the Senior Bowl that he was actually a good quarterback. And sometimes the Senior Bowl allows players to actually be coached up by different, coaches. And it's like, oh yeah, this guy actually does have talent, and his other coach was holding him back. The next thing I was right about was the downfall of the Houston Texans. Now, right before the season started, I had him squeaking into the playoffs as a 9-7 team. But I said in 2021. I said, and earlier last year, I said the Houston Texans are going to be a top 5 pick, in that slot. Now, the Miami Dolphins have their pick. They're a top 5 pick now. I said the Houston Texans would be a top 5 pick, not because Deshaun Watson wasn't good, not because J.J. Watt wasn't good, because the team just would give up on Bill O'Brien. And that's exactly what happened. You had a coach that had a system, and all of a sudden a key keg falls out of the system, somebody gets injured, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. In the beginning of the season, they were somewhat competitive. They were kind of competitive against the Chiefs, but they had a gauntlet beginning of the schedule, and things just began to fall apart. This team is not a 4-12 team. I thought they were a 6-10 team, but I said eventually the team just gives up on your coach, and you kind of just wind down. And now with Romeo Crennel, they show a little bit more fight, and it shows with Bill O'Brien. He wasn't really that good of a coach. An offensive guy, whatever it was, the Houston Texans aren't good. And finally, the last thing I was right about is the NFC North. I had the Packers going 11-5. I said they're the kings of the North. I'm like, do you think the Vikings are going to be good? I said, everyone's like, oh yeah, the Vikings are going to win the division. I'm like, what? Do you know how many players they lost? You have to have good players to win. They lost everybody on their defense. You think all these rookies are going to come out in a COVID season and all of a sudden act like all-stars? Dantzler is good. I've seen some promise with this team. But you really thought this Vikings team would end up being 10-6? Give me a break. I had them at 8-8. I had the Bears at 8-8 as well. I knew that Matt Nagy, this thing wouldn't quite work. They'd go to Nick Foles a little bit too fast. Mitch Trubisky isn't great, but he has his team winning. He has this team. He has a higher upside. And with Nick Foles, he's great and all, but he can't extend plays. He can execute the offense, I guess, but what is there to execute in this offense that only weapon is Allen Robinson and David Montgomery is spotty and offensive line? You have to have a guy that is able to produce. And as far as the Lions, I had them at 7-9. That's a little bit. I shot them a little bit. I had them a little higher because I had a bias towards the Lions last year because I predicted them to go to the playoffs. Matt Patricia isn't a good head coach. We all know that. Defense has gotten worse since he's left, but it wasn't good when he was here as well. So the NFC North, that thing. Okay, so next, I was wrong about Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. I had Saquon Barkley guaranteed. I guaranteed it. 2,222 yards from scrimmage. He has like 100 around that. The Pittsburgh game wasn't good, and they got injured against the Bears. Overall, it didn't really look good to begin with. I get it. They were good defenses, offensive line just getting up. I was wrong about Saquon Barkley. I was also wrong about Daniel Jones. I had him around 30 touchdown passes this year. He's not even at a third of that. And a third, like 1/3, 10. He's not even at 10. And he would probably be at 10 if he played those 2 games that he's missed. If that's that. You're playing Seattle and the Browns. I doubt that he would have been at 10. Overall, this offense wasn't really made for him to throw a lot of touchdown passes. They get to the goal line, they run it in. Jason Garrett, I said from the beginning, this is just what I should be right about. He's the offensive coordinator. I'm like, are we sure about Jason Garrett? He hasn't called plays for a couple years. We're sure this old guy's going to come in all of a sudden be an offensive genius. I hope Daniel Jones, I guess, learned some fundamentals about football, but that's pretty much all you got to say about Jason Garrett. Another thing I was wrong about was the Seattle Seahawks. I had them at 8-8. I said, with Jamal Adams, Jamal Adams has been a big piece, and he's missed a lot of games too. I said that they were lucky last year. I said that this offensive line is going to have Russell Wilson running all over the place. His offensive line has played fairly well, but when they have fallen apart, Russell Wilson trusted to do too much. He's fallen apart as well. I didn't trust his defense. Who's on the defense? Puna Ford, is that the guy you want? They drafted the guy Jordan Brooks, KJ Wright, and Bobby Wagner are getting older, but they played fairly well this year. They're hanging on to a final thread. Am I going to fade them next year again? I don't know. But LJ Collier looked like he's developing. Shaquem Griffin isn't awful. They just need really improvement in the secondary. But it's just that the offense is now in this league. They could just overcome bad defenses after a while because you put your own defense off the field for a while. The offense keeps the ball, then you're good enough. And they've had a solid run game, a top 10, maybe top 5 run game so far this year with Chris Carson and everybody. Chris Carson's been injured, but overall Seattle has very much surprised me. And then finally, what I was wrong about was I was right about I had the Patriots on my wrong list. I was completely right about the Patriots. Should I brag about the Patriots? Me being right about the Patriots? No, what I was wrong about was the Carolina Panthers. I said that they would be the first overall pick this year. Now they're bad. But Teddy Bridgewater has shown a little more flashes than I thought he would. This is not like a strong wrong. But, I think that Matt Rule has shown some things with the Panthers. He's shown with a limited amount of talent on that defense that he can have a team that succeeds a little bit. Now, obviously, now they should start tanking. But in the beginning of the season, at one point, they were like 3-4, 3-5. That's fairly impressive. They were in games against the Chiefs. They were in games against the Buccaneers. They were doing some impressive things. I think the Panthers have a bright future. A lot of people are buying them like a Super Bowl favorite in the next 5 years. Like if you do a draft, they'd be like a top 6-7 team that you draft to win a Super Bowl in the next 6-7 years. They just need to find their quarterback because I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is it. I thought that they would just tank and get Trevor Lawrence and then rebuild, but it looks like they're going to maybe settle for Zach Wilson or maybe go after like a Matt Stafford, a guy that could win you actually a Super Bowl and has a high ceiling. So that's where I was right, where I was wrong. Let's move on to the next segment. And welcome to the next segment. This one I call Buying It. So we take a minute on each topic, and I'll tell you where I'm buying, selling, or holding a certain topic. And I didn't rehearse this, so hopefully we can get this under a minute. So 3, 2, 1. Are Cleveland the contenders in the AFC? No, I don't think they're contenders because I think their offense has a ceiling. Once you solve out their offense, it's great. They can get the ball moving a little bit, but they play a little bit too conservative against a team like the Chiefs or the Bills that can legitimately just blow you out. I think they have good pieces. Jedrick Wills, who just was on the COVID list, but overall he's pretty good. You also have Myles Garrett, decent defensive line, who played fairly well against the Giants, but they beat those teams. But can they beat a Baltimore? They showed signs that they could, but I think Kevin Stefanski definitely has a hard ceiling. You can win a playoff game or two, but ultimately I don't think they're contenders with the big dogs. They have problems with penalties. They also have problems with the run game, like defending the run a little bit that I've seen. Their pass game has also struggled. You're injured there, but Denzel Ward can make a play or two. But ultimately, I think that they're almost there, but not quite there. So next topic, I think I'm a little bit under there, but we're gonna go straight on to it. Should the Jets keep Sam Darnold? I actually made a segment about this on my BnA Sports Instagram, so we're gonna kick to that right now. And welcome to another quick take. This is a take in 1 minute or less. Today we're talking about Sam Darnold. I think the Jets should keep Sam Darnold because Trevor Lawrence was the ultimate prize. You had to finish the tank. At 0-5, I understand you completely winning. But 0-13, Adam Gase, you got to get the hell out of here. Adam Gase, he was sung the praises by Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning was already in the league for a dozen years. We all know the Ryan Tannehill situation way better when he's gone. I don't think they're just going to be able to get an elite offensive coordinator, but they need to bring in a head coach that's going to be able to bring somebody in to develop a Sam Darnold. Under 60% completion percentage throughout his entire career, but overall not really improving that much. Bad throw percentage at 19% or 18% this year. Those stats are around normal, but you're starting to build an offensive line now. Yeah, Mekhi Becton, get a Penei Sewell at number 2. He'll do it way better than a Justin Fields would do. Then you have 2 more picks later in the rounds. Remember, they'll have a 34th overall pick. They drafted a Denzel Mims. The team is already starting to come together a little bit. They have some pieces, especially Quinnen Williams on that defense. The Jets should keep Sam Darnold. Okay, so the next segment, Matt Nagy, should he stay head coach? Again, I made a video about this. Will he stay head coach? Yes, I think he will, but I don't think he should. Now, here's why. So Matt Nagy, he's guns and mirrors, smoke and mirrors, but ultimately I don't think he commands the respect to a lot of people in the locker room. He made a statement after they lost a big game saying, we're fighting. And it just seems so disingenuous. I think the defense gives up on this team way too often. Eddie Goldman was a big loss in this offseason, but ultimately you're going to have to start paying guys on defense. Ryan Pace is not a good draft scout. He hit with one or two players, but ultimately I don't think he knows a lot about football. I think that the Bears should go in ultimately a new direction because you don't have a quarterback now. And what is Matt Nagy going to do? What is he going to you're kind of a dead-end franchise right now with the defense that's kind of going to start deteriorating. And especially Khalil Mack get injured. He's injured. He's playing injured right now. He's going to get injured every single year. The Bears, they're in a division that needs to reset. I think they should fire Matt Nagy, but they won't. Next, Derrick Henry, MVP candidate. Wow. Derrick Henry, almost 1,700 yards. Will be the most yards in who knows how many years. CJ2K, Adrian Peterson. Those guys have won the MVP award, but ultimately he's a candidate, but he won't win because there are better candidates now. I guess people say in a normal draft year, this would be a number one quarterback. Justin Fields, no, he wouldn't be a number one quarterback. But in a normal year, I think Derrick Henry would have a saying because he is the most valuable player on this team. He allows Ryan Tannehill to be successful in play action. He's the reason why this team is 10-4. He's the reason why they were able to beat a team like the Baltimore Ravens. So ultimately, in the name, most valuable player, he is. But I don't think he'll accumulate enough stats to get there. 2,000 yards is the ultimate grace. He has a decent amount of running touchdowns. I think he has around 14. He has, the great stats. He has some great plays, some great stiff arms. I think he should win the MVP award. He probably is the most valuable player to his team. Finally, is Justin Herbert the best quarterback in the last 3 drafts? I talked about him a little bit earlier in this video. He may be. Take a look at it. Lamar Jackson, he has limits of throwing. Josh Allen, that's a real competitor. Josh Rosen, he just signed up the practice squad with the 49ers, so he's definitely not it. Sam Darnold looks like a broken asset. Baker Mayfield is great in a clean pocket, like a lot of quarterbacks are. And then last year, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Drew Lock. Dwayne Haskins looks like the next Jamarcus Russell. It's kind of scary. Not quite there, but almost there. Kyler Murray, though, has limitations with his size. Justin Herbert, what are his limitations? Maybe he needs to put a little more touch on his deep ball. Everyone has little flaws. Maybe in a game against the Patriots right now, he can't quite succeed because he doesn't have the experience. But Joe Burrow wasn't put in a great position. So I'd rank it as this. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Last 3 years, Kyler Murray is short 4th. And that's pretty much. And Lamar Jackson, as far as future, as far as career success. Not right now, as far as whether end up in their career. But I hope you guys did enjoy this segment because we're moving on to the next one. All right, guys, and welcome to the next segment. Why do I start all my segments like this? I don't know. I don't know how else to start them. But yeah, we're going to do my top 7 sports cities of 2020. I like doing this every single year, kind of see how they kind of shifts. Last year, I think the worst city was Miami. I have a whole video. I think the title is like Miami is the worst sports city of 2020. I forget who was number 1 last year. It might have been Boston or Houston. They were up there. Boston had a rough year this year. I guess the Bruins did fairly well. But let's get right into the list, starting off with number 7, because that's how we do lists. Number 7 is Chicago. Now, Chicago with the Cubs, they had a little bit of a tough start, but they got a new coach, John Ross. You have some contributing guys this year. Not really looking too high on them, but they definitely exceeded expectations. Lost in the first round to the Marlins, but 34-26, that's a respectable record. That's on pace to like 90 wins in a normal season, more than that. Then the Chicago White Sox exceeded expectations. You had so many rookies coming up. Eloy Jimenez. You had I'm forgetting his name now, but Louis Robert, I think his name is. So many guys going up, especially had a really good offseason. Dallas Keuchel is now on the team. The White Sox are decent. The Chicago Blackhawks, overall decent season, 32-20-8. The Bulls didn't do well at all. This is why they got really knocked down this list. They went 22-42, but they did get Billy Donovan as their coach. Let's see how they do this year. This is recorded really before the season starts. So it's like 2 games, 1 game into the season. So, we'll see how the Bulls do. I had the bet under on them, and I should have cashed out. if it wasn't for coronavirus. I always mention that. The Bears, they went 8-8 last year, kind of extending into this year, but this year they're 7-7, so pretty much on par. They're an average team, with a decent coach. We've made videos about them. I don't really know what the Bears are going to do from here on out, but they got to find their quarterback. They do have a talented roster, though. Milwaukee, that's number 6 on my list. The Bucks went 56-17. They're second favorite to win it this year, but they had an early exit. I think that they got eliminated in the second round, if I'm not mistaken, but they got eliminated by the Heat, who eventually made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they went to the Heat ended up going to the finals. So they didn't lose to any scrubs, but definitely Milwaukee with Giannis short of what expectations were. The Brewers also fell short of expectations. It's because of Christian Yelich. Their pitching, their bullpen didn't really come together. It's a shortened season. Some teams have to have ups, other teams have downs, but the reason why I think that they're up here, Packers 13-3, went to the NFC Championship, and this year they're 11-3 again, have the number 1 seed. So you have two pretty much top 2-3 teams in the league, as well as one middling team. They don't have a hockey team, but overall 6 is fairly solid from Milwaukee. Number 5 is Denver. They went 46-27. They're amongst the favorites this year again. They had the 5th best record in the Western Conference, and they also went to the Western Conference Finals. They had a couple of upsets. I think they beat the Clippers, went down 3-1. That was crazy. So the Nuggets, they have decent pieces. Nikola Jokic. I think they need to add that 1 star, though, to fully extend and realize their potential. The Colorado Avalanche, I think they're the favorites this year. They went 42-20-8. A little bit of an early exit. I think they lost to the Stars. I should have checked this, but the Stars ended up representing the Western Conference in the NHL, so that's kind of sad for them. The Rockies also not too good. 26-34. Nolan Arenado, what's the future there? Not too sure, but they definitely exceeded my expectations in the baseball season, but overall it's just not really that good. I don't know. Maybe the different players now were used to their playing in their ballpark, so they're used to the long ball. Maybe that's why they didn't play that well this year, but 26-34. And then the Broncos, just an average team, 7-9 this year, they didn't even have a quarterback one game, 5-9. But I think Denver, overall, just around the slate, have solid teams. They don't really have any huge weak link. You could say both of those teams, but overall, the top is fairly good. And you take a look at the Nuggets and the Avalanche going to 2021. That is kind of scary. Top 4 teams in the leagues. Toronto, they have the Raptors. They just signed, no one expected Van Vliet to millions, $30 million or something crazy like that. But they went 53-19 amongst the favorites this year again. Their ceiling is Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know how quite well they're going to do. The Leafs 36-25-9. The Bruins continue to be their kryptonite in the playoffs. There's nothing much more to say about that. But overall, they have the money, they have the talent. Austin Matthews, they have John Tavares. And I think they really need to solve out their goalie problems, if I remember that correctly. You haven't really been paying too much about the Leafs, but with 36-25-9, that's fairly respectable. The Blue Jays, 32-28. They barely missed out on the playoffs, I believe. But no, they did make the playoffs, but didn't really get that far. The Blue Jays have a bright future. Ryu, they have Guerrero, they have Biggio, and they made some decent moves this offseason. Didn't make any huge splashes, but overall, you can tell they're going in the right direction. They can challenge even for the AL East title this year. Miami was number 1 last year as the worst. I have them number 3 this year. The Marlins, 31-29. At one point, they had an undefeated streak in the playoffs. It was 15 games. It was ridiculous. 31-29. Don Mattingly, manager of the year. The Heat, 44-20. I also have Marlins, Derek Jeter. They're trending in the right direction. But they need with their rebuild to add a star. They had decent bullpen this year. I think they now need to start adding stars and actually attracting people. And you see with these other teams, definitely could attract some stars to the city. The Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, shut up, buttoned up. James Harden, no way, we don't need you. We went 44-29 with the 5th seed. They made it to the finals, and they got mismatched by Lakers, but they were in some of those games. Some of those games can go the other way, and then we're talking a different story. The Panthers, 35-26-8, similar to the Maple Leafs, but they just can't go far in the playoffs. I don't know what it is with them. The Dolphins went from a 5-11 team last year to a 9-5 team this year. They can flip their record, 5-11 to 11-5, but still not make the playoffs. It's going to be interesting to see with Tua and the whole situation like that. But overall, the Dolphins, I had them in my top 5 power rankings for the best teams going forward for like Super Bowl odds next year. And this year, they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they stuck in it against the Chiefs. They made Patrick Mahomes rattle to begin with, and they beat the Patriots, which they do every year, I guess. But so next is Tampa. Speaking about Tom Brady and the Patriots, Tom Brady went to Tampa, turned the 7-9 team to a 9-5 team, 9-5, working hard. That doesn't really describe them whatsoever. They have the same record as Miami, but Tom Brady. We all know. I don't really have to say much about that. They also have the Rays 40-20, went to the World Series and lost. That means the Yankees are going to win it next year, right? Maybe. I don't know. But they also have the Lightning, who won the Stanley Cup. They were going for title town here, 43-21-6. Just so glad for the city. All the players have been fighting for years and years for this. Finally worked out, and ended up no fans were able to cheer on. But good for the Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup, because they were so close years and years, and ended up edging out the Stars. Number 1 is Los Angeles. They're title town. They have the Dodgers, who won the World Series. They have the Lakers, who won the NBA championship. They have the Clippers, who really fell apart. But the Lakers 52-19, Clippers 49-23, the Dodgers 43-17. That's crazy. I said that their record would be like 40-20. They exceeded my expectations. A bunch of people were like, the best team in the MLB is going to have 37 wins, but that's a conversation for a different day. But the Rams, they went from 9-7 last year. Now they already have 9 wins, but they lost to the Jets, so we're not sure what they are. But the Chargers have a bright future. They're 5-9, still losing those close games, but overall have a bright future next year. But this year, the Chargers found their quarterback, so they're moving in the right direction. And the Rams, wow, a lot of people expect them to be regress, and they actually got better this year. I thought their offensive line would be bad, but Sean McVay definitely has those troops ready. That was my top 7 list. Hopefully I didn't bore you that much. Honestly, I don't know too much about hockey and the different things like that. I don't know the ins and outs, but I just look at the record, and these are my top 7 sports cities in 2020. Tune in tomorrow for the bottom 7. Is New York going to make the list again? Are they going to be number 1? Where does Detroit rank? Because they suck, right? The Detroit Red Wings, Jesus Christ. But let's move on to the next segment. Okay, and welcome to my NBA official season predictions. Now, I didn't put that much thought into it. I just have a general idea of how the season is going to go as an NBA fan. The Knicks, if you didn't know, let's just start off. There's 72 games. There's 72. There's not 82. I think the Knicks can legitimately win 25, 26 games this year. You have Tom Thibodeau. I think they can legitimately turn it around. I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm going to start off with that. I don't think they're going to be an awful team this year. You just got to pray that your team shows progress, kind of like what it did last year. You have some pieces there. Kevin Knox. I think that they're going to make a big trade mid-season for a guy, maybe like a Russell Westbrook, to finalize their playoff push. I think that they're a desperate team that's not competing, maybe like a Rockets that realize, okay, we're done. I think the Knicks are going to make a legitimate competitive move. As far as the final 4 teams, I think the Nets, especially what they showed a couple days ago, are going to be a final team. The Golden State Warriors, I think that they're going to be legitimately there. I just don't think that they're going to be one of the final 4 teams. I think that also in the the NFC or the AFC, the Eastern Conference, is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think the Milwaukee Bucks can play the Nets. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are going to represent the Eastern Conference. So those are going to be fairly close, especially with the high-powered Nets. And if they make it that far, I'm not ruling anything out. This is a sink or swim for the Nets. They're either going to be really dysfunctional or just gel really well. It's going to be really interesting to see how the dynamics work with them. As far as the Western Conference, I think that the Denver Nuggets, I got fooled by the Portland Trail Blazers last year. Oh, they made the Western Conference Finals. They have a chance to go all the way this year. No, they did not, especially in the playoffs. I remember everyone saying Portland Trail Blazers are going to upset the Lakers. They won the first game, and I was like, oh, yeah, and then they lost the next 4, and they were out, and then the Lakers ended up winning the NBA Finals. I think the Lakers are going to be there again. I just think down the line, they're just going to be very fatigued, especially they're not going to have the bubble. They're not going to have a break. I think they're legitimate things that you can be concerned about the Lakers, but they did some things to improve it during the offseason, but overall, I don't think it's completely fixed. Right now, the Lakers are riding a high. I think that makes them not as much focus. LeBron James is always focused because of his dynasty, but Anthony Davis got the chip that he always wanted. Does he get a little bit distracted this year with offseason moves and deals and things like that? And remember, they don't have home court advantage. There are going to be very few fans in the stands this year. I think towards the end there might be, and that will give them the advantage. As far as the Clippers, I think that they're too dysfunctional. I really do. But like Kawhi Leonard, and now Paul George signed to the extension. I think Kawhi Leonard has to wait until he signs his extension. I really have a hard time feeling them. As far as the Jazz, they had a huge thing with COVID. They were COVID epicenter of the world last year. Right when Rudy Gobert touched the mic and then Donovan Mitchell tested positive for COVID. I think that relationship has solved, though. I just think that they have a ceiling as a team. Didn't do much to improve anything in the offseason to me. The Phoenix Suns could be an interesting team that could upset a team in the playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks, I think, will take a legitimate step forward. I have them in my final four of the playoffs. I think Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis doing a really good job. They've been attracting players in the offseason to come to them. And, I legitimately trust the Dallas Mavericks to make the Western Conference Finals. But who I have in the finals is the Clippers. I have to have them in the finals. I had them versus the Bucks in my last year's prediction for now. If that makes any sense, before last season, I had the prediction Clippers versus Bucks. Last year, I had the prediction at Lakers 76ers. The Lakers ended up going and winning. So I'm somewhat right. So I think ultimately the Clippers and the Bucks are going to make it, because I think Ty Lue is a pretty good coach. And you have a team that's going to be razor focused this year. They thought they were the kings of the world. They thought they're just going to coast in. I think it's going to make them razor focused in the playoffs to legitimately do something that's different. And I think that the Clippers and the Bucks play. As far as the MVP of the league, it should be LeBron James, but I think he's a little bit too fatigued. I think this is the year that Luka Doncic takes over the league a little bit. I think the league is going to have a little bit of a Giannis fatigue. But I think other candidates are going to be Kevin Durant, especially since he's coming back from injury. He's going to have a lot of storylines headed towards him. I think that Devin Booker is going to have a lot of things towards him. I just don't think he's going to... I think last year was riding too much of a little bit of a high. I don't see him having an amazing season this year. Now he has other pieces on his team to help him out. They added some pieces in the offseason. I don't think he's going to shine as much. I think they're going to do more teamwork this year. When he's scoring 50 points, it's great, but I don't think he's going to be up there. Anthony Davis, I don't see it. Again, Giannis, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Really? Russell Westbrook is on the Wizards, so I don't really think that's going to come. And, so that's kind of my feel for the season. The Bucks versus the Clippers. I have Luka Doncic as my MVP. And the number one seeds, it doesn't really matter, but I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be a top 2 seed. They can be challenging for the number 1 seed. And in the Eastern Conference, I think it's going to be a battle between, again, the Nets and the Bucks. So, I think the Nets will ultimately take it. That's kind of my predictions. Let's move on to the next segment. Okay, welcome to my next segment. It's called Fix It. This is where I fix a problem with the league, anything like that. So I have a 3-part plan to solve the college football playoff. A lot of people wanted to expand to 16 teams because a bunch of group of 5 teams don't have a path to make it. Now, the issue with college football has become really regional. You have 22 slots dedicated to 4 different teams out of the 28 possible in the college football playoff history. Sorry if that was a little bit confusing. So 4 different teams have made it 22 times out of 28. So that's not really spreading out the wealth. The top teams are going to be the top teams. The top teams are going to compete. But I think what Corona has done is basically just, it's like not an equalizer, but kind of realize like what the dumb shit that we do all the time, kind of like, do we really need that? Do we really need in-person interviews? I get it, like, he handed me flowers. He handed me my favorite bottled wine. You steal people that way. But you can do meetings online. You don't have to waste travel and things. I say that to say this. College football with these random bowl games, they're made to build programs. But honestly, if your program is already built, you don't really care. The Gators, do you really care about that? No, you want to compete for something bigger, something greater. I think that they should expand the college football playoff. This is what I would do. I have an 8-team playoff, and this is basically what's it. So you have the championships. You have the championships actually mean something, and that's a part of the playoff. If you win your conference, your conference, SEC. If you win the SEC, if you're Alabama, you automatically get a spot. You automatically get it. I don't care if you're Northwestern, you upset Ohio State, you get a spot because that's something that's impressive. You won it, and that motivate teams to actually win it. Because if you're Northwestern, I guess you can upset Ohio State because whatever. But if you get a bid to the National Football Playoff, the College Football Playoff, that'll be good. So you have 5 teams there. I also would include a group of 5 team that is the best. The best group of 5 team. They vote whoever, Cincinnati, UCF, Bloomingdale's University, whoever it is, the non-group of 5 team, the best one, they get a bid, and then it's the next 2 best teams. So let's say Ohio State, Alabama doesn't get it. They fit in there. Then what you do for seeding, the top 5 conference seeds. So Northwestern, if they end up beating Ohio State, they'll get the 5 seed unless somebody worse, makes it, So you have the that like that. And then the next seeds would fill in. So you'd have the next 3 seeds. Okay, Alabama, Ohio State, and BYU. Okay, they slot in like that. Because the 8 teams would be fairly interesting. And you'd have teams that would build their programs, be like, we went to the college football playoff. And then you would do just a bracket-style tournament from there. I think 6 teams is not enough. 2 teams, some years, like Alabama and Clemson are the 2 best teams. But Notre Dame, I don't want Texas A&M in again because I've already seen them versus Alabama. But I don't want Notre Dame in because they're 20-point underdogs against Alabama, and the Gators were 17. So if the Gators were 17-point underdogs, the Gators are a better team. And they cover the spread as well. I'm sick and tired of seeing Notre Dame get beaten up. So that's what I would do to fix the college football playoff. As far as students getting paid, I don't care, but you have to find them if they do get paid, if they don't play the bowl games, because that's a major revenue maker for college. So the players are making money off their name, image, and likeness. You have to get fined for not playing. Now it's $50,000, something a little bit, because the players are going to make a lot of money anyway. You get some of that money back, the money that you would have lost off these players. So I think it should be a little bit more. Let's be open here. Let's be open. Let's cut the BS. So those are, that's my solution for the college football playoff. That's a little bit of opinion about. But as far as the scheduling as well, SEC, I know these smaller programs want to build. Can we plus the programs and when we play Idaho State, whatever it is, Idaho, it does help these smaller programs, and it also helps the players that are trying to learn. They're trying to get on-field experience. I think that's a bunch of BS. Honestly, just if you're going to do that, on-field experience, have a preseason. That's what the NFL does. Have a little bit of a 1 to 2 week preseason. Screw the cupcakes. 1 to 2 week preseason. Solve it. SEC just plays an SEC schedule because every game is important. Any game you could see an upset. I don't want to see the Gators win 60-0. I don't want Alabama. They beat everybody 60-0. It feels like, but I don't want to see them play Troy. And then once in a blue moon they get upset. It's like, it's the story of the year. The storylines in the college football are kind of getting a little old. So that's my 3-point plan. Let me know what you guys think. Did I just solve the college football playoff? Did I just solve everything? No, obviously there are benefits, costs, pros, cons to everything. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. On to the next section. And that's pretty much it for the video. Hope you guys enjoy. Tomorrow we have the bottom 7 teams and cities. Not teams, but cities lined up for you guys. I'm not re-recording this outro. This is a one-take outro. That's what we're doing today. But hope you guys did enjoy this video. Remember, subscribe, rate, review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys listen to podcasts. I'm excited for tomorrow. Not excited for the editing. I like recording and researching a little bit. I get a little bit of a high off recording. It's fun because I get to actually share my opinion. I don't plan every single every single segment. Some segments I'm just I have somewhat an idea and I'm just going to go with it because it's fun. Other segments I'm I need to be strict. But yeah, before I start rambling, get on with the rest of your day. Merry Christmas. Enjoy time with your family, quarantined and with masks. But I'm just kidding. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.